The single most important determinant or risk factor for developing type 2 diabetes is diet. Americans tend to consume a diet excessively high in carbohydrates. Ultimately, the most significant root cause of type 2 diabetes is too much sugar in the body and in the cells. So that said, there are other environmental, genetic, and lifestyle factors that can increase your risk for developing type 2 diabetes, and that's what I'm going to cover in this video. Other factors that increase your risk for diabetes include being overweight or obese. There's a strong correlation between carrying excess body weight and developing type 2 diabetes. If you watch my video on what is diabetes, this makes a lot of sense, right? Because what happens to glucose that can't be burned or stored? If you didn't catch that video, I'll make sure to link it in the description below so you can watch it after. And being overweight often goes hand in hand with the next factor, which is a sedentary lifestyle. Lack of physical activity leads to insulin resistance. And if you aren't burning the sugar and carbs that you're taking in, what happens to that excess glucose, right? Certain nutrient deficiencies and insufficiencies can increase risk for diabetes. Nutrients like inositol, vitamin D, zinc, chromium, and magnesium support healthy blood sugar regulation. So when you don't get enough of them in your diet, you have an increased risk for developing diabetes. In Western society, we see this a lot. We have this constellation of being overweight, yet still having nutrient deficiencies. It's what we call being overfed and undernourished. You're taking in enough food to support your immediate energy needs, but in the standard American diet, those foods are often processed and refined, and they're missing a lot of important key nutrients. Okay, the next three are factors you can't control, but it's still helpful just to be aware of them. Having a family history of diabetes, being over the age of 45, and being of certain ethnicities, including Black, Hispanic, Native American, Asian American, or Pacific Islander, increases your risk for diabetes. Having a history of gestational diabetes, which means having had diabetes while you were pregnant, increases your risk. You're also, of course, at an increased risk if you have blood glucose levels above normal ranges, but not yet high enough to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. It's called prediabetes. Now, the next three are things you may not have heard of as being associated with diabetes risk. Having dysbiosis, or disruption of the gut microbiota, is associated with diabetes. The gut microbiota is the trillions of microorganisms living in your gut. And when there's a dysfunction within these microorganisms, we call it dysbiosis. The microbiota are so foundationally important to your overall health. So when there's dysfunction there, we see the repercussions in all aspects of our health, including how our body metabolizes glucose. So dysfunction in the gut can increase risk for diabetes. Exposure to certain toxins like bisphenol A or BPA, which is a chemical used in plastics, dioxin, arsenic, and other chemicals, many of which are found in pesticides, increases the risk for type 2 diabetes. And finally, disruption in the circadian rhythm is associated with an increased risk. The circadian rhythm is your body's internal 24-hour clock that syncs up with the light and dark cycles of your environment. When there's a disruption in this system, which includes disrupted sleep patterns and eating patterns, it can increase the risk for type 2 diabetes. So while the underlying root cause of type 2 diabetes is too much sugar for the body to effectively and efficiently process, there are factors that can increase the risk for this condition as well. Let me know if any of these factors were something that you hadn't heard of before. Also, if you want to know about the top 5 foods to avoid for people with diabetes and prediabetes, along with healthier swaps for those foods, I created a free guide that you can download, and I also include a recipe in the download to help you get started. So you can find that linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to click the thumbs up button if you found this video helpful, and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more information on type 2 diabetes and prediabetes and how to reverse them naturally. I'll see you next time.